whereby you will not see a pressure coming on to cargo lines heavily on Abu Dhabi or on the Jazira. It will be more on the east coast, like the Captain Farhad said, and you will see all these alternate solutions which is already there in place because of the Strait of Hormuz closure, kicking in and providing solutions to this multimodal route.
Yeah, but I can just add that to enhance the multimodal link. Number one, we need trailers. We are short of trailers as of today in UAE. By the time that comes in, that will be a steady requirement. So whoever has trailers today is, I think, more valuable than the ship, to be honest. Sorry. Because if you look at the transportation rates, it will give Shabu a complex. And the blueprint is there to improve the infrastructure of all UAE ports. So you will be seeing that as well as a go-to point where the productivity overall, in fact, I feel this incident in our life will transform UAE to be a very big regional hub. In fact, this negativity, I promise you, you will talk to me in 5 years, and UAE will be the biggest transshipment hub of this whole region, because we will have more ports and more infrastructure ready in the next 2 years.
Lovely. Between the two of you, do you think NAV results will give away?
Yeah, sure. NAV, come ahead, please.
The unanimous speakers, both the panelists and your question was, both were very eager to answer.
I want to know your full name.
Was it? Nothing. Yeah. Okay, now.
It's such a nice thing. What is the full name?
Yeah, please. Who I know is dying to ask more questions. I'm going to go to Amit next. Please. Both of you. This comes to the special money fund. Two panelists. Go for it. Good question asked. So as you can see, ICS has started being more benevolent with giving away appreciating more questions. So please spread the word so that more people come in for the next one. We will think of innovative giveaways than money plants the next time. But let's see what Amit B has to wants to know. He's saying, are we in a genuine upcycle, or are we in a geopolitical supernova that looks like an upcycle but will burn out moment straight fully here? Shabu, do you want to take that? He's worded it very nicely. I can see him using ChatGPT to an extent. There's no prize for nicely worded questions. I must say that.
Captain, very good question.
Yes.
You can take a part. Whoever asked that question, definitely there are signs already that the strait partially opened, a lot of ships came out from the strait. There is a downward pressure in the diverse market. Yeah. So definitely there are going to be correction, and once the Hormuz fully opens, definitely there will be a downward pressure, and there can be a correction in the diverse market. Yeah.
We will come with the reserve, right? Who is it? Amit? Come on in. Abhi, did you use AI for this question? There you go. This is the relevant question. Yeah, you to tell without knowing who you are. Lovely. Thank you. Reshma Bhagat wants to know, do we think today's geopolitical risks are changing the skills expected from future seafarers? We've got 3 masterminds here, me included, and do you think future skills are required?
Skills are non-stop evolving, whether you're a seafarer or crew. And in this case, it is definitely, I agree with your question, the skills have to non-stop change. And especially in shipping, the way AI is coming, I think that's what's going to displace a lot of people who are not going to be using AI. So in the next 5 years, we see a big change in pattern of work.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. In fact, I would go on to say that it's always been changing. So, if you look at my predecessors, when they would talk about shipping, they would talk about a very different shipping for seafarers. They've been retrained over the years, and again, yes, it will evolve. There is no option. It's no different to us. All of us have to really evolve, whether we like it or not. And those who don't will just get left behind.
Yeah, yeah. Very much. The answer is yes. The future seafarer, in my personal view, like we all have evolved in our businesses or in profession. Some have embraced AI, like we saw Amit very honestly acknowledging, and nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. We all have to get a bit more digitally savvy, simply to make our lives better, to answer questions quickly. My opening remarks had been drafted. I did read a fantastic article which had the trust aspect quoted by no other than Gagan Dhillon of Registrar. So I thought I would incorporate that in a different way. And I did have AI drafted. So everybody has to involve, including seafarers, the great seafarers, with all the communication channels open to them, are very tech savvy and evolving, and the owners and shipping agents, financial everybody should be aware of it, I think. So answer is yes to that. I'm not going to take an anonymous question there by somebody, but I'm going to go and give Bua the chance because Bua is consistent with his related question. Bua has owners, charters, cargo, and he wants to know. Owners, charters, cargo interest, VSF for his appetite at after the SOX disruption. Do we see contracts evolving to allocate risks differently? Fieke, what do you think? Do you want to take that question? I know. You have to have something to say about contractual wording is evolving or contractual?
So I think the standard income models, I think they will not so quickly change because they are so popular in the market that I don't believe that from either side or either party, charters and owners will be extremely keen on making dramatic amendments to them because they are known to work when they need to work. So I think those clauses I don't see evolve very dramatically. I think they do allocate risk also quite well already. Where I do expect changes is that owners will then contracting that even though the current situation is known, that they may want to try to protect their rights to still invoke certain clauses, even though the situation is known currently. So, or if there are minor changes, for instance, or something like that. So I can see that people will try to make the clause work even though they contract after the event. And I think that cargo interests will probably have to have a look because when you ship certain cargo, you have underlying obligations that your shipping contract may not work very well with your commodity contract, for instance. So I think that is where cargo interests will have to have a good look at their shipping contracts, at their contracts of affreightment and their commodity, the underlying commodity contract, because those force majeure clauses and those terms generally do not always align. So you might end up with an obligation as cargo interest that you have to pick up a certain cargo, that you have to deliver a certain cargo, but that you are actually as charter dealing with an owner that can invoke a liberty stop or can invoke a war clause, and that can decide that they will not make the voyage that you have contracted, and your underlying obligations, your commodity contract may not easily, you cannot so easily get out of that obligation. So I think that is something that parties will have to have a very careful look at.
Yeah, thank you.
I will just add on to what Fieke said. She obviously told from a vessel owners and the charterers perspective. From a freight forwarders perspective, we do see a lot of change happening. Many times when a cargo interest generally approaches a freight forwarder or a USSC operator, what we have seen is they issue a code just with a rate. There is no terms and conditions, nothing attached to that email. No STCs, standard trading conditions attached to that email. However, with this evolving situation, we see a lot of them changing their approach to how they even code for a freight. They ensure that they are attaching these standard trading conditions. They make sure that they have adequate clauses in it, force majeure clauses, one of them. They try not to commit themselves to any kind of consequential losses because of late, there was time sensitive cargo which was supposed to come in UAE and other parts of this GCC during the Strait of Hormuz closure. And what we have seen is actually what many of the forwarders have seen is they themselves getting exposed to those fleets, even though there were no fault of theirs. So the contract was so onerous that the freight forwarders or the logistics operators were finding themselves exposed to those fleets. So with these closures, Strait of Hormuz closure incident, we see more and more parties in between the supply chain actually changing the way they are operating because they understand the margin that they are making out of that particular business and they don't want to put their company at risk for such a small thing.
Yeah. Because do you think Goa does not? Yeah. Goa. We have one. Give away. One. Get something. 1 minute, please. Goa, please. Oh, look at this. Generous person. Mohit wants to give away. Mohit, thank you. Goa. No. Fieke wants to give you a test question, which he hasn't chosen from. No. You get a money plan. Come on. You take it later, okay. Mohit, you can keep your money plan. But look, I'll take the last question and then I can look at the remarks. Sorry. You can have it. Which one wants to know about Antigua? So let me do not see my TED Talk. Under UNCLOS, what is the distinction between transit and innocent passage, with the significance of Iran having signed, not ratified, UNCLOS, yet restricting all passage? Do you have an answer? Do you want to take up somebody?
Everything works well till it works well. UNCLOS, brilliant. When war starts, all of this goes out of the window. One, yes, you're right. It has. So the difference between signing something and not ratifying it means nothing. It means you might do. So there are lots of regulations that people have signed up to but not ratified. If it's not ratified, they don't do anything about it. That means their own country is not willing to take a stand towards it. Whether that is normal linguistic, normal rules, or UNCLOS. Safe and innocent passage, absolutely. But you've got to appreciate there's a war going on. I think that's what changes everything. And that is why war insurance, that is why the whole market around war. So, a brilliant question. Plays very well again. But in a wartime, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Second part, which I could add, is the restriction of rights. So when the dust settles, what happens? Does UN come?
So UN or the IMO has already issued guidelines around all these things. So there is a framework towards the passage of ships once every year. Now they were actually using it. I've actually written it down somewhere because I looked at it because IMO has actually issued something today. It's called the IMO evacuation framework. For those of you who haven't seen, or I'm sure everybody's seen it, but the ship that was targeted recently, IMO has come out and said it was not following our framework. So that's a bold step for IMO also to take. So there are things that will happen. And yes, a lot of countries will come up and say, we signed up to, we agreed to it. One, US is not going to sign any of it. We all know that. Historically, they're not signatory to most of the conventions. They have their own. Safe passage, a lot of countries in the world will agree that there should be safe passage. But all of this is peacetime. This is not war. So you've got to realize that's the key distinction I would draw from an insurance and a legal perspective.
Yeah. No, lovely.
Okay.
We'll call you on the panel next time. We'll call you definitely on the panel next time. You have a lot to say. And Noah said last question, the way quickly first to you and Pramod Arora has answered very good. It's not just about master and crew. Let's say on master and crew, you go MLC and refuse to go around the state or take the risk which the owner has done too. Who will pick up the loss? Will PNI cover that loss? Will party loss of hire? Huh? What? Yeah. Who will take the loss?
This owners have most likely
We have a classic case on this one going on now. In fact, one of the ship owners where the crew, so what they've been told by DG is that you can't force your crew for support across Strait Talk.
Yeah, he's saying crew is not the thing. They'll invoke the MLC and say, I want to go.
Exactly.
Who pays for the loss?
As of now, the owners, I don't think that's the case.
Loss of hire is
Oh, no. So loss of hire is absolutely valid. Once if you got loss of hire insurance, and that only pays towards loss of hire, not towards your losses overall. So you've got to realize loss of hire is a finite product based on a value. So yes, whatever you charter the vessel at, if you've got loss of hire cover, your loss of hire cover will kick in after 14 days. One, the 14 days is a long period for a lot of owners. Two, PNI has nothing to do with it. There is no PNI involvement here. Three, war risk has nothing to do with it. This is not a war risk issue. Repatriation is one way around it. Again, not a PNI thing, unfortunately. MLC is very different. So we'll have a separate chat on MLC. MLC is another one.
What I'm trying to what I'm trying to tell you here is that we have this case here. In what I understand, really, although the insurance is covering the everything, as of now, the owners have to pay. Later they will repay, that's a different story. But today, as of today, the cash flow is going from owners.
Yeah, pay to be paid is a policy first to be addressed by the stakeholder. But Pramod, the answer to your question is, for what we hear from the panel, is that the owner bears the loss.
Again, we can get deeper into this. And Shabu made a very good point. Time charter, voyage charter, what are you on? If you want to cover all your risks, there are lots of ways to do it. You can go on a long-term time charter, you can go on a spot time, you can go on a short-term time charter, you can do a lot of things. You can have clauses which make sure you are covered for this particular risk. But typical voyage charter with no such provisions in your rider clauses, unlikely it's going to be able to.
Good question. Everybody actually.
There are a lot of cases that are ending where because of one crew or probably the vessel is about to cross, but the one crew refuses and then the vessel is stuck because they cannot. So eventually what happens, the ship is
There's a turn to cross across Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, they have to spend huge amount of money, right, in order for them to come back to the port and then do all the arrangements for repatriation at the same time. So, of course, from the owner's perspective, they would like to charge this cost back to the insurance, but I should say that probably they have to bear it, but doesn't come under the law of fire because for them they are actually not. One, because these costs are completely separate. I think, you have an example.
The thing is that actually, especially at the start of the war, so when the Hormuz was just closed and it was clearly very dangerous to pass, right, that there was active firing on vessels. The owner can actually refuse those voyage orders, and then it is up to the time charter to give different voyage orders. So the vessel is actually not hired for refusing such voyage orders in these circumstances most of the time, depending on the terms of the third party, but normally I would say. So this does not necessarily become an insurance issue for the owners, because the owners will get their hire, and the charterers will have to give alternative voyage orders actually.
Time charter.
Time charter.
We're talking about time charter here.
But then,
Yes.
This is completely depends on the charter party and the course. If it is on the time charter party, the info wireless clause which covers very well the situation. The owner and the master, he has the right to refuse any order which puts the ship and the crew on board under this, which is completely within well covered with under English law and under info wireless clause. It's covered very well. They have the full right to refuse any order whereby the crew, ship, and the cargo on board will be under this.
Great. During piracy, master refused, but one of the but they say one of the no piracy is there. So doctors are not responsible for the case.
If you sponsor the after party, we'll let you talk as long as you want.
I think piracy is different. So let's not confuse what the question is with piracy. I absolutely agree with piracy. Slightly different in that sense. But I think the short answer to your question is contractual, not an insured risk. There is a brilliant product out there which a lot of you use. It's called Trade Demolition Defense, FTND. What that does is it actually advises you on your contractual provision when you're in exactly this situation. So we as insurers provide you advice, and we also cover legal costs for these things if you have FTND cover.
Yes, very good.
Thank you, Gagan. I'm learning.
I've been shown the figure by our MC a couple of times, which I requested of 15 extra minutes. Sorry for the last anonymous question. Over that is because we will take their name up there. I haven't taken that question. But I would let the panelists go without giving a last takeaway statement to our audience. As a take-home gift, what would you advise a grieving party in your own little worlds? I'm sure you must have libraries come to you and talk about all sorts of dire situations there. What would be your advice? Keep it short. One closing remark for everyone to take home, starting with Gagan taking position tonight. Please go ahead.
Yeah, that's just because I've not spoken enough, so I'll go. Let's not go back to the old ways. It's a good opportunity for our market, for our industry, especially for the Middle East, to use this as a platform to make some changes, contractual changes, get some more insurances. Not as an insurer, I'm not speaking as insurer, I'm speaking as what ship owners face. I have seen them face. Get the right products in place, get the right contractual clauses in place, and use them, negotiate and stick by them. Don't just leave them for a little bit of wiggle room for getting a little bit more money on it. So it's a good time to reset that and to build our standards, at least to take up one more notch and say, we have built new standards here. This is what the benchmark. It's a good opportunity with you.
Yeah, thank you. Sudeep, do you have anything to
Keep your options open. Try to diversify as much as possible. Don't concentrate at one particular area. I would say, if you are a freight forwarder, try to actually associate with various. You have various networks freight forwarding networks, WCA, JC France, to name a few. Build your network as strong as possible so you have multiple options always available. The most important thing that we have seen during this difficult time is somebody who was operating small was getting affected the most. The regional players had enough in their kitty, or they could absorb a lot of the shocks that was coming their way. So keep your options open. Always try to diversify.
Lovely. Starting from Gagan. So what would be your answer, sir?
I would advise or recommend everyone to try and gather market intelligence. That is going to be key going forward. Get connected, get the information from good agent who's on the ground. Where and before you fix your contract, do your work, assess your risk, then gather the information, gather the market intelligence, manage your risk properly. The successful person is going to be the one who is going to manage their risk properly. The risk management is going to be very important. Market intelligence is going to be the most important tool.
Farhad, what is your view on this?
I think everybody is covered. I think the new topic which will come, in my opinion, will be resilience management. I think any company which will be resilient will survive this storm. But I'm a very optimistic person. I still feel we are all going to prosper from here. Rest assured, next 2 years we're all going to be all happy out here and things will be back to normal. I'm quite confident of that.
What are optimistic statements? Thank you, sir. And you said to that for the last, we started with you, ending with you. Fieke. What is your advice being the only qualified lawyer in the panel?
Read your contracts.
Really?
Read and review your contracts. On a serious note, stay also open for creative solutions. Try to be solution oriented. I think that is the answer to this situation.
Yeah. I have to thank the panelists, and I will save my advice to everybody by announcing a gift back to our to our ICS members. For that, there's a reason why it's right behind. It's not a mistake. This is the ICS program, but we have an associate and Sheikh. I call our events lead Capt to come up and mention about an article ball which is just announced yesterday. Members of ICS do get a discount of preferred rates what the Nautical Institute members get because they are associate partners of the Nautical Institute. But Capt, could you please announce about our Nautical Institute and involve the events lead, the new events lead as of last week?
I didn't expect from anyone to get up with this. But 7th of November is the Nautical Institute Marine Ball. We had it scheduled in April. We had delays, we had setbacks, we had conflicts, but it is back on. 7th of November at SO Uptown. Everybody is welcome. We'd love to see some sponsorships. There's going to be music, there's going to be dancing, good food, a charity auction. It's going to be a fantastic night. I'm sure everyone who's been in the past can attest to it. And Zarir said he's picking up complimentary tickets for everyone here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
There'll be more going out on social media and
Thank you. Thank you, Capt. And that's it from our panel. Thank you very much, panelists, for being present. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the panelists. And I've got a few things, a few reflections to share. We'll start with the optionality with intelligence and drives confidence is exactly what we take away from this discussion. And at the same time, I think they've also emphasized a lot about charter party contracts and how contracts are not just static contracts, but strategic assets. And that's also something that we take away back home. And thank you so much, Captain Zarir. You perfectly reminded that Strait may be a choke point. But we would like to stay on stage, please, for the people as well.
Yeah. You get a goodie from the ICS.
Thank you so much, Fieke, for your time as well and your emphasis on the contracts, which is definitely more effective.
This is for you, sir. Thank you. Ravi, give away, please. Take it. Save time. I'm giving that. Thank you. Come, Ravi. Thank you.
Thanks, Captain, for remaining a risk taker and not just a voting.
Thank you so much, Shabu, for reminding what the ship on is perspective. Thank you so much, Gagan. Thank you so much, Sudeep, for your perspective from the people as well. Thank you, Lord Captain Zarir, and I am glad we still didn't receive the answer for who's going to be the title sponsor, but that's for another day. Thank you so much. Now, may I call upon our head of education and membership, collaborating with Mr. Fieke Nijland on stage, please, to give away our members of the new membership, Mr. Hussein Chakriwala, Mr. Mustafa, on stage, please. I'm so glad you're part of the ICS community now, and congratulations. Congratulations, Mustafa. We're glad to see you more in the networking events. I call upon Captain Dhillon on stage, please, and congratulations for being a new member. Do we have Captain Dhillon on stage? No. Captain Barbuda, please. Congratulations. May I also call upon the Sharaf on stage, please. I believe Maladi is not there. So thank you so much and congratulations, everybody. Fieke, do you want to make the new announcements that we have and the upcoming events? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm better known as a right man in the ICS team. But today, on behalf of our education lead, Sharaf, I'm going to announce the upcoming knowledge series and the understanding of shipping program, which will commence by the first week of September. We expect to commence, and you all will be duly updated in the WhatsApp group and the ICS Middle East website. So please stay tuned for that. And as soon as the weather cools down, we need to pick up our hiking boats and start the season, kickstart the season, and also the sporting events. So looking forward to the coming season and everyone's cooperation. And I hope everyone will be joining us in our adventures ahead. So thank you for the nice evening and have a good evening to all. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Fieke, and it's been an absolute pleasure for me, not just hosting and being part of this community, because ICS is all about staying curious and definitely staying relevant. And that's exactly why I'd like to thank Captain Zarir for bringing up this topic, because trade is not just a joke point, but these sort of dialogues are definitely a bridge that keeps the global trade moving. And I definitely share a lot of perspectives in the contract aspects that you spoke about, and I look forward to one of the webinars that we have on behalf of Moderator that I represent, where it's all about identifying risks. So I share a lot of those perspectives as well. So thank you so much for bringing in that. And I would also like to thank the entire community our strategic partners or partnerships rather than sponsors, for staying close and bringing success to the community at large, and we really, really appreciate their presence. I'd like to also extend my sincere thanks to everybody within our student in the community and the membership community as well. And I would like to also remind you all of the ICS Awards event on the 2nd of September, and we look forward to seeing you all again on the 2nd of September. Thank you so much, and wish you all a blessed evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. Yes.
I will close.
Yes, yeah.